Hello, everyone, and welcome to our channel Army Zone. In this new series that I'm going to begin, it's called Docker Essentials, where we're going to be learning and understanding what is Docker and how we can use it in our everyday development. So, for part one, I'm going to be going over what is Docker, the basics, and why we should use Docker. So, with that being said, let's begin. Now, uh, first, we'll be understanding as part of our series what is a container. A container is basically a very important concept that forms the basis of why Docker is used. So, let's try to understand what it is in detail. Now, a container is a lightweight and portable form of virtualization that allows you to run an application and all of the dependencies required in a self contained environment. What I mean by this is essentially that we are all aware of VMwares, right? So a VMware is used to run a separate machine inside another machine. So let's say I have a Windows machine. I can run VMware and run a separate OS on it. I can run Linux, Ubuntu, or any other environment on it. And it essentially isolates and creates a new computer inside the host machine. Now, the disadvantage of virtualization is that it is extremely heavy in that it takes up a lot of memory, a lot of storage, because as you're aware, you need to install an entire OS, so it takes up a lot of space and a lot of CPU power. And in order to avoid this, we can use containers. So, containers are essentially similar to virtualization, but it's a lightweight form and a more portable form where we essentially package all of the dependencies. So, if we need to run an application, let's say we have an application which has the mean stack, so we need to install MongoDB, Express.js, all of the dependencies, the server related dependencies, application related dependencies, everything is installed into one entity. It's all packaged up, and that is called a container. So similar to how a ship has a containers which package the goods in it, that is where the name comes from. And here, instead of packaging goods, we're going to package all of the code, the dependencies required to run an application. Now let's look at why we need to use containers. So this is a very important question. Why do we even need containers in the first place, right? So the first one is that it is easy to run and deploy. So if you have containers, you can easily just get, let's say, an Ubuntu instance up or a Linux instance, any OS, or you also have concepts called images, which I'll get into next in the later parts. But basically, it's extremely easy to create images and run a container off of that, and it works the same way in all environments. What I mean by that is, if you're going to be executing this container in a Linux system, in a Windows system, MacBook, anywhere, the container is going to work in the exact same way in all of the environments. This is because, as I had mentioned, we're going to be packaging all of the dependencies required to run that application inside the container, so it is bound to work in the same way. This is a huge benefit because it allows you to have error free testing when your code moves from one environment to another, and you can make sure that your code is going to work the same way in dev, in QA, UAT, prod, and so on. And the third advantage is that it isolates the dependencies from the host system. So again, here, you can have a host system. Let's say you're going to install this on your Windows machine. Your Windows will not be affected by any dependencies that you install inside a container. So similar to virtualization, here, all of the dependencies are going to be in the container. It has its own networking concepts, so different networks are created to connect to containers, and the code, anything you install inside a container, will remain inside the container. Now, with that being said, let's look at what is Docker. And yeah, so Docker is essentially just a platform and a tool for building, deploying, and running applications in containers. So, as we had seen in the previous explanation, we learned what is containers, and Docker is a tool or a platform that builds, that's used to manage building these containers and deploying them as well. So they provide, in terms of Docker Desktop, they provide a good GUI, and they also have a command line interface from where you can create these containers. And so in the next part, we'll be looking at how to create a container. So it involves steps like we can create a Docker file. With that, we can create an image. We can create, from the image we create a container, and we'll see how easy it is to set up a container and get started with Docker. So stay tuned for part 2, and thank you.